All right, so we're recording now, and Jackie just want to get permission to be able to post this onto YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you are currently in KVK2.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then is it like when's Kingsland for you, or are you already in Kingsland, or is it already over? I think you. Go ahead.
Kingsland should be in 20 days, give or take. We're waiting on Pass 5 to open,
Okay.
and that's in 5 or 6 days.
Okay, it's kind of towards the middle of KVK, a little bit probably on the beginning side, almost
Yeah.
in the beginning middle-ish. Okay, so you, I would actually, based on your spend so far, I would actually call you a Kraken, which is actually very uncommon. I think we're okay with revealing the number, right? So let's actually go over this. Let's go to your questions.
Yeah.
Oh wait, let me actually share my screen with you. I forgot. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me pull this
If you
up.
want, I can share my screen.
Okay.
Whichever is easier for you.
I'll share my screen first, and then we need to look into your profile for certain things. I'll pull that up. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go over what you sent me. You can see that?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. All right. So your account is like what, 7-8 months old?
Mm-hmm. It's
and you spent
190 days. Sorry.
190. Okay. So you spent like 90K so far, and you would like to drop it down to 2 or 3K.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like a whole different level that definitely none of the videos I made so far has covered anything like this. So it's gonna change some of what I suggest, and this is more applicable to a very small group, like with you included, but it won't be applicable to most people. Just got bored. Wanted to play a city building. That's actually me. I was like thinking of like Civilization or like something like Clash of Clans, and then here we are.
Yeah.
So you can only run 5 marches right now. If you're planning on spending 2 to 3K, eventually it's going to be 7 marches for you once you get to Season of Conquest, and it's just how you build that out. Something I would probably I want to plant the seed for you. I think the best 7 march setup would actually include a siege march. You're early enough now where you can make that transition pretty easily. We'll go over your equipment, but I think you're actually kind of set up to make that transition very easily. Because if you're considering the 7th March, right, you're either doing right now, and obviously it changes as a new commander comes out. You're either going to do Trajan Ethel or Trajan something, right, as a support march, or you're running XY Justinian, which is probably actually the best one out of the 3 troop types, because the 3rd march for, say, like an infantry would be, you'll probably run like Guan Sargon, and then Gorgo LC, and then I like, so you can run Guan Skippy, Gorgo LC, and then your 3rd march of it's like Sargon Alex, like, right? It's just kind of weird. And same thing with the 3rd Archer March. You're looking at like maybe like not like Henry, somewhere between like Henry, Nebu, YSG, something like that. Right now, I linked him in the video, but Mr. Siege, I think he's a low spinner, just started making content only like a month or 2 months ago. And once I started looking into like Siege, like the stats are already good, right? But then here's someone who actually is making videos showing the reports and everything. Like it's clearly very, very good. I just didn't think, one, it was very viable as far as how do you run field marches and have a siege march, and it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. But then two, like the barrier to entry is very high. So the commanders are the pairing is really good, and they actually have like a defense debuff too, right? And now they have AOE. It's actually crazy. So this is me. If I could just wave a magic wand, the way I would go about it, right? You want 2-2-2, right? 2 of each troop type. Now the challenge for me is like, I'm not a Kraken, so how do I make the equipment work, right? So I always thought that if I ever got to a 7th March, and I think it'll end up happening at some point, I would do the 2-2-2, and then the 7th set I would actually run leadership, right? Because with the leadership now, you could actually do garrison with it. You could flex to whatever troop type you want. You could even do siege. And this is kind of a preview, but you actually already have a leadership set. I don't know how you already have a leadership set. So now the way I would do it, and this might not be the way for you, because it might just be 8 sets for you, right? If you want to go that route. I was thinking, okay, because the archer, ideally the archer set includes at least 2 pieces of the leadership, right? I think it should be the legs and the gloves. Mathematically, I think that actually comes out better. But regardless, it's 2 pieces, right? And what if I actually ran a leadership set that could also be flexed out to be my 2nd archer set, and then I have a full set of siege equipment, right? So now I still do the 2-2-2, but the leadership maybe you lose a little bit, but it's it's fine. But then I could also use it for garrison. I could use it for if I had to go to some other troop type. So this is just theory crafting without testing it, right? Like I can't like, oh, this works really well. But like I'm like, okay, if I was gonna go about this, maybe 2 infantry sets, 2 cavalry set, 1 archer set, 1 leadership set. Maybe I'll have like a half archer set and then a full leadership set, so I can mix and match that. So if I want to run archer or something else, and I have a siege set. I was also thinking of doing the leadership for the siege, but the problem is like with the siege set, you get like 18% of march speed for siege units that you don't get from the leadership set. And also the stats are just even higher. Like the siege equipment, if you look at it, it's way higher than the legendary equipment for a specific troop type. Okay, so just planting a seed, I'm not telling you to do it because I don't have experience doing it. This is all just theory crafting. Okay, but when you get to 7, just something to consider. Could be completely wrong, or that actually would be the meta, maybe like 6 months from now. I don't know, but no one's talking about that right now. Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I'll show you something that's pretty funny. You'll get a laugh out of it once the video starts and I go over the gear.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. You're even the equipment and like I'm like, why did he do this? I'm like, okay, I could kind of see it, but it's like a way of thinking that way higher spenders, maybe you go about it that way. I just didn't even think about it that way.
I'll be completely honest with you. You're giving me way too much credit. I did my research, obviously, but it's my first time playing. As you can tell. Yeah.
Well, with like the revival helm, right? You're running a revival helm on your I forgot which march, your 3rd march or like an infantry set or something. I'm like, why is there a freaking revival helm critted for infantry? I'm like, okay, against like defense, I guess it's better than the windswept, but I never would have thought to go that route. Just windset, and then you just skip the witch's lineage, you go to the set helm.
Yeah, and honestly, like, because I have all the blueprints. It doesn't matter to me that
yeah, exactly.
Like it not to sound arrogant, it's just the fact is like I have the blueprints to do it, so why not?
No, it's true. Yeah,
but the infantry attack on the windswept, it doesn't really, it's attack, and then on the abyssal or not abyssal
which is lineage,
it's also attack.
Yeah,
whereas with the revival helm, I got the defense. Yeah, and I know people recommend the expeditionary war helm, but credit that gives me like, I don't know, like 2.5%, 2.75, I don't remember. Yeah. But with the revival helm, I get like 6% or so. Let me check. Yeah, 6.5%, and it's like, okay, those are way better stats than with the other options that I have. Yeah. And that was something that that was good advice that I got from a friend. Honestly, like I said, you're giving me way too much credit. The leadership was definitely a mistake. It wasn't like, let's pull it up. Oh man, is he like 6 braining here? No, that was like I got the advice from someone who has since quit the game.
Yeah.
And who was a low spender.
Yeah.
Who knew kind of what they were talking about. Like they played the game for some time, but they didn't know the meta. They didn't know equipment.
They're those are actually the most dangerous because they have experience.
Exactly. Exactly, and that's
but
once I committed. Go ahead, bro.
But I'll say this: I don't actually think it's a mistake. I think a leadership set for the 7th set, because you could flex it to a bunch of different things. It's very, very versatile. You just got that out of the way early, right? So it took the decision-making process out of it for you.
Exactly. And it was just funny because like that helmet with the crit, that was my 2nd ever craft.
You created for leadership.
I was like, all right, I'm committed now. But they're just like, oh, it's troop health, like it could be good. It turned out to be in my favor that I could flex it for archers.
Exactly.
It turned out in my favor that I could garrison, but
a lot of the recommendation I'll make will actually be off of the versatility for this. It's actually not bad. And then definitely, I really do think Siege is severely underrated. I just can't say it confidently without having run it myself. But based on like everything, the stat, the what they do, seeing the stuff that Mr. Siege is posting, right? Like the toughest thing is, one, you're not going to get a lot of community agreement on this, right? So right now you'll kind of be exploring in the dark. But then 2, there's a big like barrier to entry, which for a very, very high spender, it obviously is a lot easier. Because like honestly, my account to be able to start going into Siege is probably about 6 months away. Right, like if I was 6 months ahead in progression, that would actually be what I would be working on now. But I probably need another 6 months to be able to do it. So at least I could say, hey, I made a video about it before someone else started doing it. But I think someone's gonna get there before me. So okay, let's actually kind of finish this out. So if you had a self scout, what do you think is holding you back in KP? Well, 2.1 billion KP from KVK1 and like a little part of KVK2 is actually a lot. So I don't think anything's holding you back there. I think you got like 164 million units killed and sub-wounded. So that's a lot. But I will say this, you don't know what you don't know. And the power differential between a whale or Kraken in the early game, you'll never actually experience that again as you get later and later on in the game. Okay, so I call it like the hot girl / like silver spoon baby syndrome, if you will. You're not forced to actually get really skilled with controlling the mark. Now this isn't a high skill game, but when you could just essentially like take your march and just ram it into the middle of another group and then just trade positive and take on a bunch of marches in the early game, I see a lot of quote unquote whales post highlight videos of that and dudes do it, and they're not necessarily the most skilled. So do you play on a PC, by the way?
At first I played on a phone, but now I've recently been transitioning on into my laptop. So start getting like comfortable. Like you don't need it right now, but start getting comfortable playing on the PC, and it's actually really quick to learn because you're gonna have to make that transition at some point if you want to be like decent at least. I've never played on an iPad. I do know people that are really good that play on iPad, so that's probably more viable. I don't think it's viable on the phone to actually fight at a high level. Really? So if you get started on that now, that'll be good. The other thing, do you have any farms? I do have farms. I have 7 farms.
Oh, crap. Okay. All right, perfect. I don't think you need more. I have 8. It's more for you. It's more just like how much you're willing to manage it, right? Like if it becomes something where you feel like it's taxing it, like 8 is actually probably one too many, to be honest. But the farms is very important, especially in the current meta right now. It's actually really important to use farms to get the deads too, right? Because I think we talked about it off recording, but like as your power gets very, very high, it's actually a very big burden on the kingdom as far as the Imperium status, getting migration, and all that stuff, and using farms to get deads is actually very good. And besides like the resources, right? There's other ways to get resources, but if you have 7 or 8 farms, that will help out a lot too with getting resources, even if you need to get it in some other ways, which we're not gonna acknowledge, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Okay, and then you want to see best options going forward in this KVK, what March is. So let's actually get to your equipment. Okay, so equipment, it seems like you watch a lot. I mean, I think you mentioned it, right? So you watch a lot of videos, you know, like the progression, like why you do what you do and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so just looking at this, I think it's like obvious. The next set you are going to craft should be Archer, right? Because you have 2 Cav, you have 2 Infantry, and then you have a Leadership, and then the Archer is actually going to be the meta March or endgame March you're going to get to last, just because the wheel comes last in KVK3 anyways. And also there's just there's not really any, I mean, YSG, I guess, but you're just like, you know, you don't have to run Archer March early game. Okay, and then from there, if you have 2-2, kind of 2, right? 1 Archer, 1 Leadership, that could count as Archer. I think for equipment, for you, because the rate of accumulation of materials like gold heads and everything is just going to be much higher, I think you should actually build out a 7th March. Once you get like, because so for example, all 5 of these are already in a good enough place for KVK4. I would just say for the Cav, you want to switch out that chest for a set chest, right? Because you go from defense to health, and then obviously you want the helm for the infantry, and that's actually like good enough for KVK4, and you're in KVK2, right? So then once you actually get a 7 set to a good enough place, and this is all just like if you want to they call it like min-maxing, right? Like maximum efficiency. Once you get all to a good of a place, where you actually get the biggest upgrade is start upgrading from the epic, where the blue accessories, to the legendary accessories. Right, and then once you get it all to legendary accessories, then you kind of fill out the rest. So for example, like the Eternal Knight, even with an iconic crystal, is actually worse than a special talented Karak's Humility. Right, so you have a Eternal Knight there, but like it's just one of those where it's a legendary, it's more stats. Right, is it that big of a deal? No, but like when you get into like nitty gritty, statistically, the Karak's Humility is going to be better. Okay, I can't, like, oh man, I'll say it. I actually think once you get another Archer set, consider Siege. You know, I just think there's a massive opportunity there. I really wish I got to actually run it, so then I could give this advice with a lot more confidence, right? But that's our thing. Just because, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, man.
Just because Crystal Tech, if you can max it early, it's a monster advantage. It's like a monster advantage. It allows you to like run like suboptimal commanders and equipment, but like bridge the gap quickly between players that have a lot more time. You know, like I know like free to play or low spenders don't want to hear this, but it does. So that transition in KVK4 for you will actually be a lot easier than most people, because I assume you're just going to max it like pretty early.
I get you. Like I said, I haven't experienced SOC.
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about Crystal Tech. I know that's like something you need to be viable. Even against like other accounts that a native would consider a Kraken, or you know, like I have cross-season migrants that are like not great. But then our natives, like my kingdom is kind of weird. Like a lot of us started, we weren't a jumper project, but a lot of us are first-time players or just started together and we're learning as we go. They look at those guys and they don't watch YouTube videos. They don't know like that's a migrant that, and then based on recently your most recent video about calculating account age and calculating sev wounds and seeing what Clodo and Lambo, they just released a video last night about, fighter or farmer. And I can see that those accounts, some of them are just almost like farmers. Maybe even like full-on farmers.
I'll say this. Lambo is very, very harsh. Okay, and his emphasis, he has a very strong emphasis on deads. Which I think we talked about it off stream a little bit, just because like the deads actually it depends on like the amount of power you carry, and so like anyways, go ahead, sorry.
No, so it's funny. I'm harsh on myself. Like I'm my worst critic, so, and I'm harsh on my guys because I carry them to a higher standard. I'm like, you can't do this, you can't do that because of this, this, and this. And a lot of them are
too. Go ahead, no, keep going. I'm pulling up your account on the screen.
Yeah, they don't know the meta. They don't watch the YouTube videos, so it's on me almost to educate them on that fact. And I'm like, what you guys are calling a Kraken or a rich boy or this, that, and the other, like, no, dog. His account is 5 digits. And he has less KP than me, like he has twice my KP with like a 5-digit account. It's like, not really. Like, granted, his account overall is stronger because he has more better armaments, more better gear, more crit gear, but at the end of the day I will win because
like you get another KVK in KVK3, you're gonna blow past them, right? So it's almost like that's well, I mean, I hate to say it, that's a lot of the people, that's why they migrate back, because they want to feel like a rock star, because they don't feel like one in the end game.
And that's fine for like a growing kingdom, because we need those fighters. Like, yes, they might not be rock stars in their own kingdom, but they're rock stars, in our kingdom right now, which is what we need. Sorry, that I went on a super long tangent, which is to say, like, I have made some mistake with my gear. I'm trying my best to follow the meta. Like, you can see with my primary Cav set, I accidentally put an iconic stone on the chest when I meant to put it on the legs, and now I boosted defense when I should have boosted attack, or sorry, health. So that's min-maxing for sure. I'm trying my best to follow the meta and do what I should be doing to squeeze that like last 5% out. But
which like in the grand scheme of things for you, does it really affect your on-field performance that much in the early game? Not really. I mean, it's almost like the testing ground to like learn a lot of this stuff. You're actually, for like first time playing like 8 months, like you're doing really well, right? It's not just like throwing money around. It's also so in general, like following the principles of being efficient with the money you are spending. So let's actually get into your commanders. So this is from what you sent me, right? So the top is what you, which is wild, right? This is what you ran in KVK1. KVK2, you sent me what you think you should run. You can see this, right? And I sent it to you. Based on what you sent me, I think this is what you should run in KVK2. So obviously you could spin the wheel for Alex, or you could buy dailies for him. All right, but Alex is one you definitely want to max, just because now the transition to KVK3 and KVK4 with Luce, he's really, really good. But you have any questions with what this for KVK2? I would say
oh, go ahead.
I would say the weakest one is Constantine Richard, right? And you said you could get Constantine just because it's fixed MGE, so you'll have them maxed anyways.
I didn't realize that Constantine and Richard would be the weak one, because I Mina March in KVK1, and I know Mehmed doesn't really bring much stat or much defense. Mina took the least positive trades all around and died the fastest all around.
You're running Mima with buy bars or CC?
CC at the time,
And Mina had your best gear, which is your Cav gear.
at the time. Now I've
Define
since boosted my.
define worst trades though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I I
Like,
don't have trade share on.
were you trading
Yeah.
positive? Obviously.
Yes. He wasn't as positive, and he didn't last as long on the field
Yeah.
because the enemy, like they saw my Richard, they saw my Martel,
Yeah.
and they were like, I'm running into a fucking brick wall.
Yeah.
Sorry, pardon my language.
No, that's fine.
They're, you know, they're like, I'm running into a brick wall. I was getting like,
Yeah.
man, like
Okay.
in
So
one ancient ruins, I got 40 million KP.
yeah. Okay.
On one march.
Okay. So if you look at early game commanders, right? Tankiness and then relying on counterattack white damage is a lot more of the meta, which is why like Charles Richard is probably the best march. It's either that or maybe like Mina YSG, one of those two, I think, as best march in KVK1, just because the damage factor for the most part isn't very high. So the tankiness and the white damage actually is more valuable. Now, as you get later and later on the generations, you can see the damage factor, right? Like starting out, like, oh wow, like 1400 for CC is really high. Well, okay, you double that now, right? But the defensive stats aren't doubled. So as you get later and later on, the tankiness actually loses its value in getting high counterattack and getting trades that way. Like like if you have Constantine Richard and KVK3, right? Like they just call it a punching bag because like yes, you're very tanky, but you're doing so little damage back that your trades just aren't going to be as good. Whereas like if you can run Constantine Richard and KVK1, like literally it's just like a bowling ball that you can just march into the middle of, like fighting like you know, mostly T4, probably some T3 and stuff, and then like it would just like melt as they attack you. It's almost like a rally going into a crowd, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's more the dynamic of the commanders that you're comparing it against changes, right? So I think it is, it's, I don't think it will be as, I mean, if you had that on KVK1, it'll be like even better. KVK2 is still viable, it'll be good enough. And I remember seeing a Constantine with either Joan or Mulan. It was like one of the quote unquote whales. And my KD when I was in KVK2, I just saw him like run around with that and you were just dominating, right? Like first or second in MGE for the kill event during KVK. We ran a Constantine, it was fine. So like it's more than viable for KVK2. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But out of the five, I do think that's probably the weakest one.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think it's the weakest one. Mehmed is really okay. He's okay. He's not even that good. I mean, you have him expertise, right? But like, he actually gets a lot of his value once you could get a museum for him. Like without the museum, he's like very mid. It's actually Mina is really good in KVK1, kind of mid in KVK2, and then once you get the museum, he actually becomes very solid. And if you look at the museum recommendation I have at the end, that's actually the first museum I recommend you max for him.
Okay.
You could play around with this a little bit. I actually thought of just like still like sticking Charles with Richard, right? You could easily run that in KVK2 and just like don't even run Constantine. A lot of the reason why I did this too is because Sun Tzu has no march speed. Charles' expertise does have march speed, right? So you literally on here you have two cavs. Alex has a lot of march speed for infantry. Charles has decent march speed for infantry, and you'll have one really slow march, right? So you can kind of play around with that a little bit. But given like okay, your KVK1 commanders and then kind of the list you sent me for KVK2, I think this is probably what I would go with if I was running 5 marches, and based off of your equipment too.
Okay.
Right. So like the leadership will actually be for infantry for one of these. I would actually start also. Let's actually go back to this. So your this one, the leadership set too. You want to just move away from having like a rainbow stats altogether and just make it either you're going for infantry, cavalry, or archer. And then, you know, if you do get to siege, you want to siege V formation. right? But like you have a lot of well, you have 4 inscriptions for that. It's pretty good, and you just got armaments maybe a month ago, a
Yeah.
month and a half, right? So this is actually already like really good. I'm not. What kind of the armaments you can spend, but there's just not as many ways to spend and progress that fast, and a lot of it's like RNG and luck, right? And Search of Wonders is the only event where you can drop a lot of money at once on, and I think it's very good value, especially for a newer player that doesn't have a lot of armaments. Other than that, it just kind of progresses at its own rate. As long as you kind of know what you're doing and you don't do stupid shit, it'll just get there. The end game, the bottleneck is actually going to be equipment. Okay, so the transition in KVK 3, 4, for you, probably KVK 3 and 4, you'll be able to accumulate gold heads faster. That's where the importance of catching up commanders is going to be really high. And then once you catch up, you'll be like, I just have way more gold heads and I know what to do with. Right. So for me, it took about like 3 KVKs to do it. So 4, 5, and 6. And well, actually 3 and then like another like month and a half. I think you could do it in 2 KVKs, like catching up in commanders. Okay, so a lot of the advice I give is to kind of cushion that blow for people transitioning to KVK 3, but also still being able to enjoy the early game. Okay, so like for you, this is still, how do you enjoy KVK 2 and 3, right? But still at least have an eye on, hey, it's going to be like a shock to the system when you get to KVK 3, and then all these like cross-season migrants, they're end-game commanders become available. How do you still remain competitive, right? So one of the ways to remain competitive is, one, have just good equipment, because then even if you're running suboptimal end-game commanders, and then with crystal tech, I'll make up for it. And by KVK 5, you'll notice, by KVK 4, you'll notice that difference is like minimal, because now you can invest in crystal tech and everything. Okay, and then as far as the transition to KVK 3, you're still only going to run 5 marches, right? Because there's no crystal tech, right? So if you have Alex Max, right, LC comes out on the second wheel, you'll naturally pair with Alex. I think LC, starting out, you almost want to budget these endgame commanders, because the power creep level, like, you know, because if a 5511 is better than an expertise, you go with a 5511.
Yes.
Right. So like almost every one of these, like LC is 5511, Joan ideally 5115, new Cav, we don't know what they're like yet. Herman, you can run at 5511, same thing with ZL, right? But the first wheel is Cav, then infantry, and then by the time you get the archer, I want to say it's like during Kinsland, or like right around Kinsland, or even like middle of Kinsland. Essentially, archers, from what I was told, is not really usable in KVK 3. So it's almost like a project that you start towards the end of KVK 3, and you'll have ready by KVK 4. Okay, so for this one, in KVK 3, right, the first Cav wheel, you want to unlock Joan and the new Cav. And if you, let's just say we want to allocate like 400 gold heads to it, right? You'll do 5511 for the new Cav, assuming, you know, we don't know the skill. And then Joan, the 5 for the first one, and then however the luck ends up, the highest skill you could get on the 4th skill without putting any in the 2nd and 3rd skill, and you just get it to there, right? LC 5511. Scipio, I just found this out like 2 days ago. Okay, and I haven't gotten a definitive answer. So when I was playing, when in-game commanders were available in KVK 4, as soon as the off-season started, so KVK 3 ended, off-season for Season of Conquest, KVK 4 started, the dailies became available, and you could buy in-game commanders. So my first daily purchase for in-game commanders was Kuang. That was before KVK 4 started. I posted a video with someone I mentored a few days ago, and then there was someone in the comments who's like, "Hey, that's wrong. You don't get the dailies until, I don't know, he's the first wheel or something." And then someone else says like, "You don't get it until towards the end of KVK 3." So I don't even know now, right? But what really changes this whole dynamic is Scipio and Nevsky are going to be available in the dailies in like a day or two. I don't even know what it is at this point. Like they already showed up there, right? So once that happens, all of a sudden you have ways to get meta commanders without having to use gold heads or even spin the wheel, which is very valuable. it's somewhere between I think 3 and 4 sculptures per average when you buy the dailies. You open it up, right? Sometimes you get lucky. Like I've gotten like 12, and then when you're unlucky, you get a pity. You get 1, right? And then from what I noticed, it's about I want to say like a 2-3 months period, maybe more, to completely expertise a commander from just buying dailies only.
Yep.
Okay, so like even with the dailies, right? Definitely for Scipio and Nevsky. Scipio, you want to get them to 5511, then go to Nevsky 5511, just because those will happen really quick. You'll at least have something to work with, and it's going to be better than the alternative. Then you want to slowly like expertise them. And this is really only going to be a challenge for you in KVK 3 and 4. I think you'll catch up by then.
Okay.
Okay, and then the museum, the priority for you, Mina. I think Mina will actually be the one you get the most use out of. And then YSG, just because YSG is actually pretty universal, and who you could go behind. And then Mehmed, I realize I actually don't like that much, even with the museum, right? Because I saw a lot of videos like, oh, his museum's so good. So he can only really go behind fast commanders because he has no march speed. So I tried putting him behind Guan before. I put him behind Scipio, which is okay. But if you give me the option of a double relic Mehmed or a single, I think it's single relic, right? For YSG, or is it double? I can't remember off the top of my head. I would just straight up take YSG. Right, just because the skill damage boost, like a 50% skill damage boost, and the circular 5-target AOE, it's just better in my opinion. Right, and honestly, for those two, YSG, you can actually still use in the end game. Whereas like Mehmed, once you like it just the longevity for YSG just a little more.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if you get to KVK 3, I think like, LC Alex, Joan the new Cav, I think that's probably what he's gonna pair with. Martel and Scipio, and you want Martel as a primary just because once he fires his active skill, you do 30% more damage, right? And then Scipio is gonna fire his active skill. That's why you want it in that order. And then Mina Mehmed, double relic. And then Nevsky YSG. Right, and then as you fill it, as you're able to like fill in the commanders, you obviously sub some out. For most of these commanders, once you get the end game commander to 5511, it's going to be better than the non-end game counterpart.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Herman ZL 5511 for both from the wheel. You unlock them, and then that's something they'll be ready, more than ready by KVK 4 for you. So that's how I would actually transition from KVK 2, 3, and then KVK 4.
Okay.
Do you have any like questions or comments about any of this?
Honestly, the only thing is just like, what are your thoughts on the new Cav commander? Because obviously I kind of geared up towards having Cavs.
Yeah.
But not knowing how meta is gonna be, or whatever it is gonna be, like, it almost feels like a dice roll. A little bit.
What are my new thoughts in what context? Like, as far as is he worth investing in, or she, or So the last flop we had, and I think people are finally admitting it was Sargon. Right, and then before that, is it CJ maybe, like Chuck? I'm trying to think in between. MGE commanders don't count. Wait, actually, it's Chuck MGE. I don't even know. That was before my time. But the point I'm making is there's not that many flops. there's just not that many. So I mean, you'll be able to see, right? So for example, let's just say the new Cav commander is a flop. Well, perfect. Joan in the wheel, and you have Nevsky in the dailies.
Okay.
Right, and then William, I straight up would take over Hua. I just think he's better.
Really?
I'm in the minority by far, but I could make a very compelling argument. And the people that make the argument the other way, I feel like can't make as compelling of an argument. But I'm not a Hua hater. I'm just a William lover, if that makes sense. Like Hua's really
No, I
good.
get you.
Like Sargon's not good. William's actually really good. I mean, Hua's really good.
And
So yeah.
yeah, I watch your videos, and not to say they're obscure, it's just like you dig into the science of it and you explain like, hey, based on the stat, this is why. And that's what kind of like drew me in, is because like you do that research that other people don't, and they kind of follow, you know, what the crowd does. And by all means, that's not a bad thing. Like if the crowd is doing it, there's a good reason. But if we're going into that last like 0.5% of efficiency, this is why. And I'm like, okay, I'll bite, you know, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So that's,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, that's all I got. As far as Luce, sorry, you kind of said it a little fast. You said I should get him to just 5511, or
starting now you want him 5511, just because, like, for example, how many gold heads do you have right now?
1400. Let me check.
Oh my god, you have 1400? Okay.
1450.
Okay, so you spent 1300 in KVK1 and you still have 1400?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's wild. Okay, and then how many are you planning to spend on these KVK2 commanders?
Based on the recommendations that I'm getting, I don't know if I want to, like, I wouldn't mind maxing all the wheels, like I can, right? But I don't know that if the juice is going to be worth the squeeze by the time I get to Kingsland.
It's not.
It's even worth it for me to get to Salad into 5551. I know that's his quote unquote meta,
right?
But for me, like, is that worth it?
So is your,
should I keep?
I forgot. Your Saladin's at like 5211 or 5521 or something, right? What's he at right now?
No, he's not. Let me check. So Saladin's at 5211.
Okay, and then
Then for Alex, I didn't skill lock him, so accidentally. So he's at 4211.
Okay. I mean, just Alex just max wheel.
Yeah.
And then you could already get. Can you already get Alex in the dailies or no?
Yes, I have been buying him in the
dailies.
Okay,
perfect. Yeah. So he should actually be a max. He's I don't know. I think he was recognized as really good. Then he was actually kind of underrated. And now, like, that people are seeing LC Alex, they're kind of realizing like Alex actually, as far as like the buff debuff and everything else, especially paired with LC, he was probably a little underrated before. Now, to be fair, LC is actually making that march, not Alex. Alex is just it's like with LC, like the stuff that he does really well can actually be brought out. And then he'll definitely be viable for at least until the next infantry commander comes out, and even then, like, we'll see. Like there is a world where maybe like Alex will be part of that next 2 March meta over, say, like Juan, or like, and by the time you get there, you might be talking about Gorgo. I don't know if you know Chatsky in my KD.
I've seen his name. I've seen him around.
So he's a proper like Kraken too. I was talking to him because Gorgo's stat wise, in theory, should trade will trade really well, and it is. Well, it's one of the best dueling marches, but he has both, and he actually says he prefers LC Alex over Gorgo Luce. And as someone who's used both, I'll take his word for it. I was actually planning on maybe going into Gorgo. I think I talked about this earlier. I think now after the next cab, I might actually look into Siege. That's me personally.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. But for you, just some of the this is kind of I already mentioned it, right? So there's only going to be a bottleneck for commanders, KVK 3 and 4 for you. Like, you'll catch up. Once you catch up, you don't need it. And especially at the gold red you're accumulating, it might actually be faster than 2 KVKs. Right, because for me it was like 3 KVKs and then like another month. And when I was basically diverting all my resources into gold heads, I was getting about 450 per month, between 400 and 450, right? But you're VIP 18, I assume, right? And I wasn't buying out the VIP shop, and I'm sure there's like other ways to squeeze out more that I'm unable to think about off the top of my head. But you already have 1,400 saved up, and you're not going to spend any more, right, for KVK2?
Yeah.
So let's just say between now and the start of KVK3, that'll be what, like maybe like a little over 2 months for now for you.
Yeah.
And let's just say, well, we'll be conservative. We'll just say you're getting another 1,000. You'll be at like 2,400. I mean, that's enough to max like 3.5 commanders, and that's probably on the conservative side. And you get to do Scipio Nevsky from the Dailies. Yeah, even like what I put down here for KVK3, it might just be something that you kind of budget run at the beginning of KVK as you just switch over.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure, dude.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy what you could do when we just have to spend a lot more money. Okay.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm talking about, right? Like, so like the wheel one definitely unlock Joan in the new Cav. Joan budget build for sure starting out. I think the new Cav will be really good. It's most likely the new Cav won't have to be a primary. It would actually surprise me if the new Cav is kind of like Nevsky. Well, not even Nevsky can be a secondary, but like Hort has to be a primary, right? Just with a lot of his value.
Yeah.
I think the new Cav will probably be like more viable as a secondary, and Joan can actually be a primary. She's just been typecasted into a secondary just because she goes best behind Nevsky right now, but her active skill actually works best as a primary.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Okay, I still stand by what I wrote here, but I just think you actually will be able to progress faster than I even thought. I didn't think you had that many gold heads already available, but don't spend any more.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then you're also one of the kings of your kingdom. Right. So I will say, I mean, you probably feel the pressure too, right? Of staying like undefeated, getting the star and all that stuff. It's not a bad thing if you take a tough KVK, like a real, like, not a stupid KVK, like a tough KVK, and you lose. But not because you're trying to throw it, but because you took on a big challenge and like whatever. Because it builds a lot of character, and you get to flush out a lot of the people that aren't there for the right reasons. And it's way better to take that early on and then have strong leadership to kind of rebound and grow from that than to take that in KVK 5 or 4 or 6 and then the kingdom falls apart.
Honestly, going into this KVK, it was supposed to be a tough KVK. We offered a 3v5 against the other coalition, and just because of Diplo meltdown, no one wanted to be the main rival's ally. Like, even their current allies aren't allies by choice. They're just allies by necessity.
Are they comparable in like fighting strength to you guys?
Bro, completely honest, like based on their cross-season migrants, they would have swept us. We could have pulled off a 2v1, but one-on-one they would have swept us.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They masqueraded as being weaker than they are, but their accounts are just so much stronger. Their spending level was on par with mine for their natives.
Yeah.
And then they took the cheap way out and bought like quote unquote Kraken accounts, but you know, like they're fleshed out, but they don't have the KP, so they brought it back and they took it back, and now it's being piloted by spenders. So it's, you know, they would sweep us.
Yeah. Okay. So now what's really interesting with that is it's almost like they are able to pull ahead, because you know, this is, I think, off recording, right? You said you guys didn't get a big cross season migration, before this KVK.
Yeah.
It's not, that's actually not a bad thing. I'm doing a migration stream tonight. Definitely like recommend you checking that out. But yeah. I think you should, if you guys aren't doing it, like look into like doing voice interviews and being very, very selective with that. And then I think for a younger kingdom, the more like, honestly, it's more fun too. You want a lot more natives than cross-season migrants in your kingdom to grow with.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I think like that's just a lot more solid like kingdom building strategy. You know, because you guys already have the spender, you already have enough momentum. I don't think it's actually a bad thing. You didn't get a big cross-season migrant, especially like I just seen some like funky stuff with people migrating back and then wanting to take over a kingdom.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you finish KVK4, right? So you're not just fighting your continent anymore. Then they'll migrate out somewhere. Like you want people that, you know, unless there's something with the kingdom where you give them a good reason to migrate, they're like loyal, they want to be in the community, they actually want to help grow the kingdom. That's very important.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, for sure, man. Because since we're off recording, I'm just kind of like.
Oh no, we're still recording right now. We're still recording.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, you're good. In that case, then yeah. No, I talked about it. Like I don't know the motivation behind some of the people taking over kingdoms.
Yeah.
Especially when they're AC'd right now, like in this KVK, but it happened. I told you.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, you're destroying this kingdom and then migrating out after they hit like KVK4, like for no reason. It's so silly.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like running a kingdom. It's actually, I don't want to say thankless because I think some people recognize it, but really like for the amount of effort, work, and like the amount of responsibility you have to take on versus like what you get out of it, materially, it's not worth it. Oh, yeah. Right now, but like there is something to be said about taking on that challenge and like, you know, your personal growth, and you know, and that's different for everyone. But if like I have no desire, like I already run a business in real life, I have no desire of being in leadership or being responsible for that. I do have a very strong desire to be part of migration for my kingdom, because that's the part where I naturally get really excited about. I think I'm very good at if you compare it to like a NFL or NBA or like even like a college like scout, I think I'm very good at identifying accounts that I think will provide a lot more value than what their account says, that maybe the other people won't recognize, and then I could project out like 2 or 3 KVKs, like that account, the growth for that account. I think I'm very good at that, so that's something I'm really interested. Personally, I have to prove myself in this KD first, but like, yeah, I don't know. You see it a lot, right? Like there's teenagers that take over a kingdom or get to R4, and then yeah, I mean it's wild, right? But don't worry, when you get to the end game, especially at a higher level with like the bigger kingdoms, you don't see a lot of that.
Thank God, because honestly, like one of my things right now is all of my R4s. If you have to ask to be R4, like you're not going to make it R4. To that point, because I know that
yeah exactly.
You want, like having been in this position since almost near the start of the kingdom, like I know what it takes, and I know that like every day I'm like, dude, you guys are asking for a lot from me, like emotional, like spiritual or mental, like drain. I'm like, it like you said, materially it takes more from you than you get to be king.
Yeah, you don't even get to get as many kills on the field because you're basically having to manage other stuff, right?
Exactly. So to that point, like if anyone is asking me to be R4, like I'm like immediate disqualifier, because I know you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, we agree on that point for sure.
Yeah, but I would just say, like, if I had to give you a big overall takeaway from this, like, you know, with the amount of like spend and where you're at, I think like the the commanders, the equipment, all that stuff, you'll figure it out.
Mhm.
What will really help is just get like the dynamic of how strong you are compared to the other players is going to change. That gap is going to close. So even though you don't need it now, it's like start actually learning the skills you need to be an actual like good player, right? Like being disciplined and also like helping train your kingdom to do that too, where if they're like KP chasing on the side and not following markers, or like ideally everyone in your kingdom would just get on voice, and then like already start establishing that culture, because it's very noticeable when a kingdom is in voice and when they're not. Like the organization and the efficiency is completely different. And I want to say like, never mind the earlier kingdoms, or even the end game, like unless it's like the higher seeded like top kingdoms, there's not as many kingdoms that are in voice. So if you already have a culture and a habit of doing that, you'll have a big advantage.
Yeah, for sure. We do that, and I think one struggle with that is like my kingdom has a lot of people from across the world. So there's that language barrier when it comes to voice, and like sending out mails. I sometimes get people like still breaking the rules, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you like
It's like a translation error.
listen? And it turns out it was a translation error, and I'm like, oh okay.
Is it mostly like one, like is it Asian, like one Asian country, or is it just all over the place?
So we got Turks, we got Vietnamese, we got Indonesians, and we got featured in a lot of Indonesian like YouTube videos. YouTube video. Yeah, I forget what it was. Like I think it was like Logzi Bank or whatever. But there's a couple. And so we have a lot of Europeans too, like Polish. I One of the few times I got linked an account from you actually is from one of my Polish players, and you actually mentored one of our migrants.
Oh, really?
So
what was it?
Avo.
That sounds familiar. It's like an earlier one, right?
It was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. It was, so he did that interview right after migration happened, before we went into KVK.
Oh, nice. And let me look up Avo real quick here. See if I remember. Okay, so this is a guy that migrated back after stopping for a while. Okay. All right. How's he doing?
Honestly, I don't mind him. He's like, hey,
hello?
Sorry, your stream closed for a second.
Oh, oops. Is it open now?
No, it's still off.
Okay, let me share this again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So watching his video, hearing what he has to say, and then seeing it in action, I'm like, okay, well, like it, whatever, like what happened, and like he's kind of staying true to his word on what he told you. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, perfect. He's actually the one that started me on doing this, because he reached out and it never crossed my mind to actually do mentoring and then record it and make videos out of it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try it out. So he's actually the one that got me started. It was him and someone else right around the same time, but I think he's actually the first one to message me. And if I remember correctly, what I told him was like, listen, you want to get a bunch of KP, you want to be a warrior, all that stuff, that's fine. I think I told him to just like focus on going narrower first, maybe just getting one march to a good place. And then same thing, like get on a PC and just like learn that kind of stuff too. And then like as long as like getting kills is actually also in a context where it's benefiting the kingdom, so it's like a win-win for both. Right, and then kind of learning from there. Okay, cool, awesome. Good to hear he's staying true to his word, because I don't think I heard from him again. So other people actually keep in touch, will message me and stuff. I don't think he messaged me again after that.
I think it's just like a case of people not bothering you, because like watching your bandwidth video and like having 300 messages a day, I can relate. And I
I don't
make it
want
a
to say
point.
300. 300 is a lot, but yeah, you get messages here and there for different things.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Just as an exaggeration, but I tell my kingdom guys, I'm like, hey guys, like I'm busy. Like not to like say that you guys aren't important, but
Yeah.
I broke down the. I don't know if you read the monkey on the back article from like the 70s, just like level of initiatives from your player. Like I told them like the 5 levels of initiative. Like this guy has to be told what to do. He doesn't like do anything.
Yeah.
And then this guy who like he asks what he has to do, but he doesn't know what he has to do all the time.
Yeah.
And then the guy that's like he tells me that he wants to do this, and then he asks for confirmation. And then I got guys that are like, hey, I'm gonna do this. What do you think? And then I got guys that are like, hey, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
I did this.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So as a way of like letting them know, like, don't bother me if it's something that's within your ability. Just let me know about it. And I think that's like what his mentality is. It's just like,
perfect. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. If you have a kingdom full of people where it's just like their presence is actually value added, a lot of the headache that goes into managing a kingdom isn't even an issue. Like you don't have to worry about it, right? And so like a lot of times, I mean, it's very important to like screen and like voice interview and all that stuff, right? But what's just as important is, you get someone a chance, and usually I like to give people a second chance, and then after that you just cut the cord, right? And then you cycle through that way. And the same thing with migrants, same thing with people that work for me. I help them out. I give them opportunities, and I'll like literally spend time. And at a certain point, you just have to make that call. Where is it? Like, do they want it more than you, right? So, yeah, no, I get it. Okay, cool. Other than that, do you have any like questions or anything? Or anything specific? Because we covered commanders, armaments. Well, not armaments. Armaments, it's too young. I think you actually know what you're doing. You just don't do leadership. Right? Yeah, you just pick up troop type. Maybe consider going siege. Talked about some like kingdom building stuff. I would always start looking out for people that you think naturally can contribute to the structure of the kingdom, right? So yes, R4, but they don't necessarily even need that title. And then whatever part of helping the kingdom that appeals to them, letting them take on that responsibility. And then for your occupation, you might not actually be able to always like run the kingdom. Yeah. Right. So for me, I know like personally in real life, and if I was running kingdom, I would do this too. I would actually like get some redundancy where I look for people that, it's almost like you're already looking for a successor, even if you don't plan on retiring. So just in case it happens, like it's almost like the legacy of the kingdom, you want it to be set up. And I talked about that in the Why Kingdoms Fail. A lot of times it's just no one wants to take over after the king steps down, and then boom, it's dead. Exactly. Right? But there's actually always people that, if you are cognizant of that, like even I think like 68, the current like kings, the two of them, they were already kind of around before that, and it was logical for them to step in, and they were doing a really good job, right? So like if you always like kind of look out for that too, it's think about it more like a generational thing that you want to continue, just in case you can't be running it. And also it's just like way more fun when you have like a team that's helping with this, rather than you having to do it by yourself.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm trying to foster that mentality in the kingdom. They're newer guys that haven't had much life experience or haven't had much game experience, one or the two. So I'm trying to get them to step up and do that. And I guess until that day, like, just gotta figure it out,
Yeah, give them that opportunity. But yeah, just like basically like always looking. Like even for this is real life. Even for my business, for the gym, like I've owned it for 11 years now, going on 11 years, and I'm not gonna own it forever. So it's already like kind of like planting the seed here or there, finding someone, because it's a big community and it's very like continuous, right? So I actually want someone that's already in the community eventually to take it over, as opposed to selling it to someone outside that comes in and takes it over. So yeah, it's just just always keep an eye out for people that can contribute to the structure of the kingdom. I think that's very important.
For sure, man. What gym is this, by the way? So I might come and visit. I don't know.
Oh, what's in Orlando? Cool. Orlando, yeah, it's a CrossFit gym. It's called Uncanny Fitness. You ever want to check it out?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't go down to Orlando often, but one of my best friends live in Jacksonville.
Oh, nice.
And there's another player in our KVK. He's pretty cool, and I'm like, dude, I'll visit, because one of my best friends there, and he's there too. So I'm like, during Kingsland, let's freaking go, dude.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like a adult LAN party, right? If you can actually play KVK like all in the same room, because I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, if I'm ever down in
hit me up. Hit me up here in Orlando.
For sure.
I would consider myself a foodie now, so show you some good places.
Oh, dude, Korean barbecue.
Oh, there you go.
Sure.
They're like sprouting up like wildfire here in Orlando.
Yeah.
There's some good ones now.
Yeah. I'm not a foodie myself. Like, I don't go out to look for food, but a lot of my friends are. And I grew up in San Diego, California, and it's close to Irvine, which is also another like college town.
Yeah.
Specifically like Asian college towns, and those guys know their food, man.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know if we can compare the Asian food in California, but it's getting pretty good here. I give some credit.
Yeah. If you're ever in Gainesville, Barbecue Holic is also a great place to go to.
Yeah. That's actually that's where I went to school, so I still get up there for a football game here or there.
Oh heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Let me know. We'll meet up or something.
All right, man. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna end the recording.
Yeah.